Morning time up here on the job, and getting ready to get going here. We're gonna be done with the base today. I think it's taken us since hauling on Tuesday. Today's Friday, so it's taken us 4 days to haul the base in, which is no surprise really. My fuel gauge, there's some down in there, but I don't know how much. The stick's floating, so that means there's quite a bit. We might be able to get through today. We're not hauling very many. I think we only got to get 5 up here. We only got to get 5 loads up here. We're sitting right now at 234 ton of base on the ground, and I calced it out for 260. And while the truck's warming up, I'll explain why, the meaning of my madness and some stuff here. Because the engineer was up a couple days ago. I haven't taken any video up here since Tuesday, because it's just been the same thing every day, haul rock. So I haven't taken any video. Prime the old girl up. I haven't taken any video since then, because it's just basically been the same thing, just drive around in circles in the dump truck. Alright, see if she'll fire up. I need to start remembering to turn that freaking thing off. There she be. She's alive for the day. Customer's kids the other day thought the house over here was on fire. It was a cold morning. This thing blubbered a little bit when I first fired it up. So, but anyway, 260 tons. So what we figured on is that the engineer called for a minimum of 4 inches of base, with a minimum of 2 inches of top course on top of it. I calculated it out to being 260 tons. You all right over there? I calculated it out to being 260 tons because we put down 6 inches of base. We're putting 6 inches of base in here. And let me explain the reason why I'm putting in 6 inches of base. In dirt work, there's this thing that happens. It's called shrink and swell, which means when you dig something out, it's going to get light and poofy and fluffy, and then when you put it down and drive over the top of it, it's going to compact, and you're going to lose thickness when you compact it. And the engineer, he came out and looked this over the other day and said, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do depth checks. I'm going to do all this other kind of stuff. I mean, this road is going to have to pass an inspection. So what he's going to do, he's going to come out and he's going to dig a bunch of little holes down through here, and he's going to check to see how deep the base is. And then he's going to say, okay, well, your base is deep enough. And then he's going to dig in those same holes. He's going to measure our top course, which is the little rock we're going to put on top of this. And then he's going to say, okay, well, that's deep enough or that's not. So, that being said, the code that he's going off of calls for a minimum of 4 inches of base. I'm putting down 6, because by the time it's all said and done, and we're done rolling it and compacting it and driving back and forth over the top of it and all that, there's a pretty good chance in some places that I'm only going to be about 5 inches thick. Because wherever the big rock is at, it's going to stay at a pretty good depth, but wherever you get into the fine binder, it's gonna pack in a little bit. Especially being as, you know, it's gonna pack into the dirt. I mean, You know, there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen to this thing by the time that guy finally gets up here and checks it out. So one of the things he was telling me, there's another young guy in the area that's my age, and he's been doing quite a bit of these county spec roads because, you know, he's basically the new kid on the block and everybody's favorite, whatever. And so every single one of them that he's done, he's actually come in and told him that he has to take the top course back off, which means literally scrape the rock off the top of it and add more base because the base is not thick enough. And that's something that I'm trying to avoid, because that, who's gonna pay for that? I sure don't. The customer's probably not gonna want to. So today's plan, should I choose to accept it, you see here there's a bunch of places where it's not up against the stakes. And so I'm gonna go and haul about 5 loads of rock in here. And I'm just gonna kind of dump a load per station and just get this thing widened out to where it's as wide as the stakes so that I can pull the stakes out and then clean up the line. And then I'm gonna go down through here with my own little set of tools and a tape measure, and I'm gonna poke holes in this base, and I'm gonna make sure that at least every 20 or 30 feet it's minimum, that meets the minimum 4-inch requirement. Because I took the little Dynapack there yesterday and I whacked the crap out of it for a couple of hours at the end of the day to try and get her to push in a little bit. So that was the other thing that guy noted. He goes, I haven't seen any of these other guys have a roller on site. Because their headaches would probably go away if they had a roller on site. And that brought up the conversation of hubs and all kinds of other stuff. Now, in a perfect real world, either A, you're gonna have GPS on whatever you're doing laying this in, and that GPS system is gonna get your depth hit in. I mean, if you're doing it with a dozer, you wouldn't even have to worry about it. You just start shoving, and what's gonna happen is the GPS is gonna tell you, hey, you're good, you're not good, you need to come up, you need to go down. Or if you got a fancy enough GPS, what's gonna happen is that the dozer is just gonna do the work for you. In a perfect world, we'd have a motor grader up here. If it had GPS on it too, it'd be 6 inches. This thing would be 6 inches thick all the way down, and it'd be 18 feet wide all the way down, no problem. But we're not that fancy. We don't have GPS, let alone a road grader. So you'd have to go old school. Now, old school is you hub it. You have little stakes. They're about, you know, that big. They're a square, and they got little feathers on top of them. And you go down through here, and you know, you'd either have a laser or some form of being able to shoot grade, because it's flat underneath this. So what we would have done is we would have set the laser up down there at the end of it somewhere, and we would have come up through here, and we would have found what our depth was, or we would have shot a grade, and then we would have said, okay, we want to have 5.5, 6 inches of rock. And so we'd set the laser receiver up to where it was 6 inches taller than that point, and we start to drive that hub in, and we'd laser the top of it until we got down to where the transmitter beeps at us and tells us that we're at grade. And that little tassel that's up on top, you just start filling material in around those hubs until the tassel's sticking out of the ground. When the tassel's sticking out of your material, then you're at grade. And then you go down through there and you roll it, and them hubs basically can live there forever, unless you want to dig them out, which, with as hard as it is to find them anymore, it's kind of a I'd probably be digging them out, which is, I mean, it just kind of shows you. I seen a guy up here working the other day out by Kettle Falls, and he had GPS on his dozer. So you know, hubs and hubbing are gonna be going away really quick, because, you know, in this line of work, if you could spend $20,000 and rig up your rig to where it's got GPS on it, then, you know, a lot of guys are gonna go that way, because it saves money and it saves time. Because you don't have, I mean, if we would have hubbed this, we would have been out here for probably 4.5, maybe 5 hours if we were able to do it quick. setting hubs. And you know, when you got 2 guys working, you know, I know what I like to make an hour, but if I had to have Nick out here at, you know, paying out on him, I'm not paying him, but paying out on him $20-30 an hour, because you know, you got to pay the state, you got to pay the Fed, you got to pay everybody when you have an employee. You know, it would have cost the customer probably a good $1,500 to have it for this to get hubbed, because it's just that. There's we got these set up as stations, so there, by the time we got to building, we got 1 2 3 4 5 6 650 feet just in the straightaway, plus, you know, the hammerheads from the shoulder out to where those stakes over there are at, down over there. You're looking at 70 feet there. So I mean, altogether we got about 710 feet of road here that we're building. And if you're trying to set in a hub every 20 or 30 feet, you know, and you're having to laser it in and shoot the grade and all that. Look at where we're at. Again. Coming in for a load of 3-inch. Guessed right. Brakes on. Oh, he's getting a whopper. Oh, it made me so glad we were done driving the truck. I'm finally getting to do what I should have been doing 2 weeks ago. The stupid part about it is that I'm gonna have to pay for another month on this frickin' truck, because this truck sat on a job for 2 weeks while we figured out what the heck we were doing. We used it on the job. I mean, we hauled material on site and everything, but that wasn't originally what it was supposed to be there for. Originally, it was supposed to be there to haul rock. Okay, here we go. Oh, I gotta take it in and get the clutch adjusted. This excavation coming on 3-inch Finley bolts. Oh yeah. I'll take that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, she's a little heavy this trip. She's gonna groan a little bit. I ain't scared. Get in the gear. Thing of it is, I think next year I'm gonna have to hire a couple people. Really, we gotta buy something next year. I don't know what it's gonna be. If it's gonna be a dump truck, or if it's gonna be a machine. We're kind of interested in buying this truck, primarily because that motor's been freshly rebuilt. We gotta kind of see what the price tag's gonna be on it. To be a successful operation, you need two things. You need a primary machine, and you need a way of moving the material that doesn't involve hiring somebody every time you need to do something. With this truck and at least a 2-axle trailer, I can move any machine that we've been using except for the 170. That saves money there. One of the things I've done over the summer is I've rented everything, or leased it. Reason being, getting more honed in on exactly what it is we need as a company to pick up for machinery. I know that next year I need to pick up a small machine I can move with either a truck or behind my pickup to go to job to job. Now, the decision I gotta make: do I want to pick up a track steer, just a track steer in general, or do I want to pick up a small backhoe, like a small Kubota backhoe or something like that? That's the question. I've been really thinking it over, especially on this job. If I had one of them little like Kubota M62 backhoes, I mean, they're big enough to do a lot of stuff, but they're yet small enough that they can do some of the smaller stuff as well. Not to mention you can dig with them. use it at the church. They can use it on this job for spreading the rock. But the thing about those backhoes like that too is you take that backhoe off and you can run a mower, you can run a rototiller, you can run, you know, grading implements. In the grand scheme of things, I'm almost thinking it's a better investment because if you look at the price of equipment, it's ridiculous. It's stupid how expensive shit costs. And it's only going up. I mean, last year I could have bought one of them Kubota M62s for $65,000 brand new out the door with some goodies along. This year I am going to be surprised if I can buy one for less than $70,000. Okay, so I got 2 on the ground now. I think I'll get 2 more. But the first one is back there. It's real thin and it's got to get brought up there, and it's real thin right in here too. That area is where I was trying to spread with the truck, and then I think I spread it at the right depth, but by the time I got it groomed up, it needed another one spread over the top. But by the time I got it groomed up, it was pretty thin. So right down here is where I just started dumping it and shoving it out with the machine, and that got me depth, and the depth that I really needed, and that's probably the way I should have gone from the beginning, but oh well. Anyway, so I'm gonna go get 2 more and dump one right here in this station, and that should, because this station's thick, I just need to widen it out. I'm gonna dump one in this station, widen it out, and then come down here, start widening out this station, and then I'm gonna dump another one right here where the truck is at to square this up here, as well as between that stake and that stake and that stake down there, square up that line. Now this through here I'm very certain is thick enough, but we're just gonna bring it up just a little bit right there next to those stakes, because the ground kind of does this right in here. So we're gonna bring it up to where it's flat across and have plenty of base. And it's just one of them, you know, we're building the road going into a piece of property that is gonna have houses out over here sometime in the next 20 years. He just wants this built so that this part of the project is done, and he doesn't have to worry about meeting any kind of new weird and wonky codes in the future, because they are coming. 1 more to go, and then I'm pretty sure we're gonna have enough rock for the base anyway. Like I said, the center is pretty thick. It's just I gotta fatten up the outsides and then spread those piles out down the middle, and then I think it's good to go. And it's kind of right here real quick. When you're driving dump truck, like I said earlier, you always wipe your butt. Gotta come back here and get all this stuff off. And even though people got coverage on their insurance for rock chips and stuff, they still like to yell at you when that frickin' rock comes off and smacks them. Anyway. Oh, letting the track steerer warm up. Letting the dump truck cool down. Got the fourth load on the ground here. got the roller fired up and warming up, putting some fuel in the track steer here because we're done with her for the day. I'm just gonna roll this out and then I get going real early in the morning and come up here with the tractor and the rake, get this raked and just kind of see where we're at tomorrow, and then tomorrow afternoon go over and push out that pile of dirt at the church. Make a full day of it. So get this rolled out and I'm calling her a day. I gotta go do some running around and then head on home. I gotta get a plug in. Then I go a couple more places. I'm gonna go and see if I can't find some hubs. So I really like the hub, the top course.